Thank you. Good afternoon. I want to welcome everyone to this afternoon's April 1st meeting of the Senate Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections. We do have a quorum present. Madam Secretary, please mark every member present. I'll go over a few housekeeping measures just briefly. Before we begin our agenda item, I want to briefly explain how virtual meetings work this session. As most people know, the legislative building is currently closed due to the pandemic. As a result, all committee meetings are being held virtually, meaning committee members, staff, and presenters are participating either through Zoom or by telephone. Remember, as most of you are doing now, you may view committee meetings online through the legislature's streaming service or on the legislature's YouTube channel. As in previous sessions, all committee-related information is available on the NELIS system, or Nevada Electronic Legislative Information System, which is accessible from the legislature's website. For this session, the public has 3 ways to submit public opinion or testimony. Please note that each way is slightly different. Some ways will make your testimony part of the public record, and others are opinions shared for legislators' information. The 3 ways are providing testimony via telephone during committee meetings, submitting written testimony, and using the opinion poll application. I've gone over those before, so I don't want to go over that again, but all that information is on the legislative website. If anyone wants to send in written testimony, that can be emailed as a PDF to the following email address: SENLOE, the @ SEN.STATE, state.nv.us, or sent via fax to the following fax number: 775-684-6500. Again, that's 775-684-6500. There will be a period of public comment at the end of the hearing that we do set aside, and callers we do limit to 2 minutes per person. I want to remind anyone who's speaking or presenting that if you're not actively talking at that or testifying at that point, please mute your device so that we don't get any background noise or feedback. And again, some of the issues we go over here in this committee, can be heated, but please, we want respect for all members, and we talk about policy, but not about trying to let the conversation not stay at a good respectful level. So that being said, those housekeeping measures having been gone over, I'd like to open the hearing on Senate Bill 292. We're very lucky to have our own Vice Chair Lang here to present her bill, Senate Bill 292. Good afternoon, Vice Chair Lang.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair Ornshaw. Members of Leg Ops and Election, thank you for allowing me to present Senate Bill 292. For the record, I'm Roberta Lang, representing Senate District 7 in Clark County. I'll walk the committee through this bill, outline the purpose, and answer any questions. I'm pleased to be joined by Attorney Bradley Schreger, an expert in federal and Nevada election law, who can answer particular questions you may have as well. Sections 1, 4, and 5 of this bill relate to providing a straight ticket voting option. Section 1 and 5 provide that all ballots in any form must permit a voter to vote for all candidates of one political party on the ballot in partisan races by marking the name of the political party at the top of their ballot. Section 4 requires that already existing voter education programs provided by county election offices incorporate in their programs information on how to cast a straight ticket vote if the voter so chooses. I'll take a moment to highlight some important points. The straight ticket option is just that, an option. A voter can choose to cast a straight ticket vote, or they can choose to cast a vote in each individual election. There is no mandate. If a voter chooses the straight ticket option, but does decide to cast a vote in an individual race for a candidate other than the candidate with which party they choose, the selection of the individual candidate will supersede the straight ticket voting option. This will ensure that no matter what option the voter selects, their intent is held paramount and their government reflects the will of the people. The goal of the straight ticket option is to help encourage voters to cast their vote in down ballot races, including our own legislative races that are far too often skipped, which reduces voters' say in state government. By providing this option, we create a smoother, simplified voting method for voters so that the voting experience can be more effective, more accurate, and efficient. Next, Section 2 and 3 of this bill update the Nevada law as it relates to third-party access. Let me state first and foremost that this should not affect our existing third parties, IAP, Libertarian, which continue to qualify and have ballot access as a result of gaining at least 1% in congressional races. Additionally, this does not change or affect in any way the requirements for independent candidates to qualify and run in any particular race. Those will remain the same. Instead, this section is meant to align laws so that they are in the mainstream nationally and consistent with our initiative petition laws. Section 2 increases the signature requirements necessary for a third party to obtain ballot access to 2%, which must be equally divided among the petition districts, and sets the deadline for submission to June 1 or the Monday following June 1 if June 1 falls on a weekend, and adjusts the deadline to file a challenge to the signature petition to the fourth Friday in June to the second Monday in June. In reviewing other party ballot access rules across the country, 2% seemed to be a consistent threshold and showed up in some form in North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, and Missouri. This update also aligns the disbursement of those signature requirements to be consistent with existing requirements for initiative petitions. And finally, by slightly moving up the submission and challenge dates, this should ensure that there's enough time for counts to review and rule on legal challenges without fear of ruling coming out or near ballot printing deadlines. Section 6 of this bill requires the governor to appoint a person who is of the same political party as a former senator, the same requirements that exist for filling legislative vacancies at the state level. The next components relate to how to fill vacancies that arise for representatives in Congress. Sections 8 and 9 of this bill require a candidate for a major political party to be nominated at a special primary election before the general election and require the governor to specify a date for a primary election to be held not less than 60 days before the date of the special general election. Section 8 removes the requirement for a special election to be conducted not more than 90 days after the issuance of a proclamation by the governor if a vacancy is caused by a catastrophe. Sections 7, 10, and 14 of this bill make conforming changes. 1, removing definitions related to catastrophe. 2, revising certain references relating to such provisions. The intent of these changes are to fix the conflicting and confusing Supreme Court and Secretary of State determinations that emerged after the 2011 election to fill Representative Dean Heller's seat to ensure that there's a primary election when there's a special election to fill a U.S. House vacancy. I believe providing a primary election to choose nominees ensures greater participation in our democracy and produces a more representative government. Sections 11 and 12 update legislative vacancy laws to address some of the complaints we have heard from county commissions and their roles in filling those vacancies. They make clear to us that they wanted to remove themselves from the vetting process as much as constitutionally allowable. Sections 11 and 12 of the bill, 1, require the majority or minority leader of the House of which the former legislator was a member, who was of the same political party as the former legislator, to submit to the board or boards of county commissioners, as applicable, a list of qualified nominees to fill the vacancy. And 2, require the board or boards of county commissioners to fill the vacancy by appointing a person from a list of qualified nominees. If the former legislator is not of the same political party as the majority or minority leader of the House, of which the former legislator was a member, Sections 11 and 12 require the board or boards of the county commissioners, as applicable, to establish an application process in which persons may file applications with the board or boards to fill the vacancy. Section 13 of this bill makes a conforming change to require a nominee or applicant to fill a vacancy to file a declaration of eligibility with the board or boards of county commissioners. And finally, Section 15 of the bill removes NRS requirements on the internal structure of political parties that we felt may violate the U.S. Supreme Court ruling in the Democratic Party versus Wisconsin. I also have an amendment, a friendly amendment, and it is from the county clerks and election officials, and it will replace language on primary elections in section, let me see, special election, section 8A. And what it does is it aligns the elections with existing elections that would be happening to save costs for the counties. We are also going to do an amendment that is not written up yet, but an amendment that will allow counties to go to legislative commissions and ask for available funds if there were to be an election held. And with that, Chair, I would be happy, Bradley and I would be happy to take any questions members of the committee might have.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Lang. Do you, before I go to questions, do you have any other presenters you'd like me to call first? Or just
Bradley, did you want to say anything before we start?
No, thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I just want to say good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, and I am here to support this presentation and to provide any information I can if it's within my abilities and my grasp. I will ask the chair, because this is my first time in front of this committee, whether it is okay if I'm asked to go ahead and address members directly, or is your preference here that I go through the chair?
Oh, it's great to see Mr. Traeger, and absolutely go straight to the senator. You don't have to go through the chair. Senators, any questions for either Senator Lang or for Mr. Traeger? I see Senator Buck.
Thank you, Chair Ornschall and Senator Lang. In one breath, we're saying teach civics to students, teach them to be free thinkers who are informed and civically minded voters, and to ensure that they are taught all about, the power of being an engaged voter, an informed citizen. Yet in the next breath, we're saying auto-populate your vote all the way down, based on party and kind of groupthink outweighing all. This bill does not assume confidence, I guess, in the electorate, yet it disparages or speaks kind of tongue-in-cheek about voters. So I think that it further lacks voter confidence. So we should be proposing voting for bills that encourage voters to be well-informed, not just necessarily straight ticket voters. It kind of discourages voters from becoming more informed to research based on experience, education, outcomes, character, not to just vote all the way down line. So I'm just wondering, how is this bill giving credit to the intelligence of the electorate? We want to train and honor with civic certificates. And secondly, how does it give any credit to the very voters we honorably represent to research and decide the best candidate for each race based on character, education, and experience? Thank you.
Senator Lang, I think your microphone is off. I can't hear you.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Buck. I would respectfully disagree with you. I think this bill, states that have straight ticket voting have increased the participation in their voting. Additionally, this, when you have a straight ticket voting, just because you circle at the top you're voting Democrat or Republican doesn't mean that you don't make a different choice as you go down the line. So voters would also be encouraged to know about other candidates. They would have the opportunity to vote for other candidates down the ticket. It does not in any way dissuade people from making those choices on their own.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I have a question for Majority Leader Cannizzaro.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Ornschall, and thank you, Senator Lang, for bringing the bill. I really do think that this is a good piece of legislation, and I guess My question, you've in part answered. Obviously, I just want this to be very clear for the record. You don't, when you go in to vote, if a voter said, well, I want to only vote for a couple of offices, or I want to go office by office and still make my selection, as occurs now, would you be, would the vote still be permitted to do that under this legislation?
Thank you, Majority Leader, for the question. Under this legislation, a person can vote for whomever they choose. If they wanted to do the straight ticket option, they could. If they wanted to vote for individual people, they could. It doesn't say that you have to do one or the other. It's the voter's choice.
So I appreciate that. And I think you've answered some of the second part of my question as well. If somebody did say, okay, I want to vote a straight party ticket, and then they wanted to make a different choice on a couple of elections because maybe they met somebody at the door who they thought, I think they're a better candidate, seemed like a great person who had a lot of great ideas. And I feel compelled by that conversation to vote for this particular person, even though they wouldn't fall under the straight ticket. They still have the option under this bill to make that different selection.
Correct, Madam Majority Leader. They would be able to make that choice. They could circle straight ticket at the top. If they chose to vote down ticket for someone else of a different party, that would take precedence in that race.
And I appreciate that because I do think that what we are offering to voters and saying is that there's just another choice on the ballot. Mm-hmm. Same way that there are choices on ballot questions, on nonpartisan races, on judicial races, on partisan races, up and down the ticket. This seems to me to just be adding yet another choice for those voters who feel compelled by shared values to vote for a particular candidate. Or, and this is maybe more of a comment, I apologize, Mr. Chair, but I think it's important to note because I like to consider myself a very informed voter. I'm usually very familiar with the candidates running on the ballot, to include judicial races. And I have often had times where even in my very educated decision-making, after having done appropriate research and taken myself into the ballot box, have voted for all of the same members of the similar party. There have been times where that has not been the case, but there have often been a lot of times where that is the case. And I don't think saying that because somebody picks a particular slate of individuals that they want to give their voice to by way of voting for that individual, that they haven't done the appropriate education. And I think that sells our voters a little bit short in that if you make a decision and say that there's a particular issue, for example, that is the most important to you, and all the folks on the ballot who support that issue are all from one political party, that voter must not have done their homework or could not have done their homework, but rather that we're offering yet another choice on the ballot so you don't have to click through the entire ballot and can vote for folks who you believe share what it is that you want to give your voice to by way of your vote. So I appreciate the legislation. I think giving more choices to voters is a great idea. And I think the assumption that somehow if you vote for a straight party ticket, you are an uneducated voter is a wild overstatement of what our voters are doing in the voter booth. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Thank you, Vice Chair. Senator Sievers-Gansert.
Thank you, Chair Ornshall. In looking at this legislation, what comes to mind is how our elections have turned out over history. And I think Nevadans are very independent. And I also think they get to know their candidates and that it's important for them to be able to select who they want to select. And I do think that checking a box, a partisan box, doesn't make a lot of sense. I think people need to be able to look at the candidates and inform themselves, and that we are trying to educate individuals on civics. And you can tell from the last election, right? It was divided up. We had Republicans win some, we had Democrats win some.
Those two things.
Really looked at the ballot. So, I guess do any other states do this? So that's the first question. And then I actually want to go to legislative vacancies. When there's a legislative vacancy right now, a number of candidates can submit their applications and the county commissions decide what they're going to do. And it looks like this bill basically says the majority and minority leader, whoever is of the party of the person who is no longer serving, picks one or more, which really means one, potentially, who ends up getting put on a ballot or gets presented. So I guess, again, in this instance, I think there needs to be choices, and that a county commission may not just want to have one submission. I think one is too few, because then it's sort of an automatic appointment. And I think the county commissioners have an understanding of their communities and probably want a choice, not just an automatic. And this truly limits who can be proposed for a vacancy. So that was a second one. I guess why don't I pause there, and then I'll see what the responses are for those two at least.
Thank you, Senator. So there are other states that are doing that. The majority of the states that are doing straight ticket voting are Republican, and the one state that's a Democratic state that's doing it is Michigan. So, and I think that there's a misnomer here that if you circle a straight ticket ballot, that you don't have other options. Anybody could circle a straight ticket option and have another option to vote for other people individually down the ticket. It does not eliminate that for people. The second part of your question was about the appointments. So we've heard from the county commission in Clark County, for sure, about the appointments, and they don't want to make the appointments. I mean, they'll do it under the law. They have to do it. It's constitutional. But they don't really want to have to do it because that person is part of our body, for instance, in the legislature. And they would have preferred if we could just pick it right in our body. But because we can't, that's how I came up with the language of giving a list. And you're right. I mean, you could put one person on that. You could put 5 people on that. It doesn't mean that you're not talking to the commissioners about what they think. It doesn't mean that they don't have a say in it before the list comes out. I think that's always maybe a good idea. But you have senators that are already from those districts. You have the senator that may have left, like Ivana left. We talked to her and we talked to people in her district before Senator Donate was appointed by the commission. So it doesn't, while I appreciate your comments, it doesn't limit the power of the commission to have a say. I think they could always have a say. It just, the commission would prefer that we told them who would fit best in our body. And you're right, it is the leader of the party that the vacancy occurred.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any additional questions, Senator Seaver-Scancer?
Yes, if I can follow up. So it doesn't, I don't think it addresses this in the bill. So if there's only one proposed candidate, does the county commission have to appoint that person, or can they reject that and send it back to the legislature to request another nominee, right? So do you have, if you only get one nominee, do you have to appoint that nominee, or can you reject that nominee?
Thanks, I appreciate that question. I think in the language, it talks about the respective house or body giving the name to the county commission. So it's up to that body to give one or more names. But the commission wouldn't, they couldn't send it back. I think under the language. Is that correct, Bradley?
Pardon me. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. It is not entirely spelled out.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Strager. Just state your name for the record. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry about that.
Bradley Strager for the record. Thank you. I'm out of practice. I do not believe this is essentially spelled out within the text of the bill at this particular moment. Obviously, the ultimate constitutional duty always devolves upon the body that's designated to do that, which is the county commission. I would not foresee this likely being a problem, given the alignment of interests and perhaps relationships between the two bodies. But I do not believe that is spelled out within the bill, so that if we presume that without a right being spelled out for the county commission to send it back, that it doesn't exist, I think that's where we fall.
Thank you. The way that I read this, it says they have to come up with a process, but it doesn't say they shall appoint someone if you only have one. So I guess maybe we need some clarification on that. And again, I do agree that legislative body and the legislative members should be working with their county commissioners, but I also think the county commissioners know their counties very well and that they ought to be able to have some choices as far as who they may appoint. And then, kind of circling back to the beginning. So judges, I think the majority leader mentioned judicial offices, and those are nonpartisan offices. And those are confusing for people because there's so many of them and they are nonpartisan offices. But I do think that voters can distinguish candidates. And while they have the ability to do that in what you've proposed, I would prefer that our voters are engaged and can pick right down the races, because we've seen in Nevada that's pretty typical. Someone votes across party lines not infrequently in the state of Nevada because we know our candidates. We're a small state and we take pride in that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Siebers-Cancer. Thank you, Vice Chair Lang and Mr. Schrager. I guess one question I have, Vice Chair Lang, if this bill passes into law, would a registered nonpartisan be able to vote a ticket one way or another as to a major party, or would it only apply if you're a registered Democrat or Republican with one of the major parties, or would it apply? If I was a registered nonpartisan and let's say I wanted to vote a straight Republican ticket or a straight Democratic ticket, would I have that option under this bill?
Or in the general election?
In the general election, yes.
I believe yes. Bradley?
Yes, Bradley Shager for the record. Absolutely. When you go, when you get your ballot, the ballot doesn't know what party you're registered for or whether you're registered with the party at all. So that all of the ballots would be the same in that respect, and they would function in the same. So that even a registered Democrat could, in fact, theoretically vote straight Republican ticket, and vice versa, or for any minor party. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Schrager. Thank you, Vice Chair Lang. Members, any additional questions for our Vice Chair or for Mr. Schrager? Well, I'm not seeing any, so I can turn it over to support. I don't know if there's anyone on Zoom or anyone else you'd like me to turn it over on Zoom, or I can go to broadcasting and to the phone lines.
Broadcasting is great.
Thank you. Broadcasting, if there's anyone who'd like to speak in support of Senate Bill 292, we're allotting 2 minutes per speaker.
To testify in support of Senate Bill 292, please press *9 now to get your place in the queue. I repeat, to testify in support of Senate Bill 292, please press *9 now to get your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers raising their hand to speak in support of Senate Bill 292.
Okay, thank you very much, broadcasting. And did someone on Zoom want to speak? I've got a message that someone on Zoom, maybe that might not be correct. But if we can now go to opposition. Broadcasting, 2 minutes per speaker.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
To testify in opposition of Senate Bill 292, please press *9 now to get your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 898, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller with the last 3 digits, 898, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hi, my name is Oliver Hall. Can you hear me?
Yes, caller, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. My name is Oliver Hall. I'm calling from the Center for Competitive Democracy in Washington, D.C. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we focus on ballot access litigation. I'm testifying in opposition to this legislation, mainly on the ground that the facts demonstrate that the proposed increase in the signature requirement is not necessary to protect Nevada's legitimate state interests. The Supreme Court has repeatedly recognized that when pursuing a legitimate state interest, the state may not choose means that unnecessarily restrict constitutionally protected liberty. That was in Anderson v. Celebrezze. Put another way, the court has said if the state has open to it a less drastic way of satisfying its legitimate interests, it may not choose a legislative scheme that broadly stifles the exercise of fundamental personal liberties. That was in Cusper v. Pontiquez. In Storer v. Brown, the Supreme Court recognized that past experience is a helpful indication of whether a ballot access requirement is too restrictive based on whether candidates and parties have been able to comply with it. Here, past experience shows that the existing requirement is more than sufficient to protect Nevada's legitimate interests. No party has succeeded in petitioning onto the ballot in Nevada since 2011, and that was Americans Elect with funding from a very wealthy backer. The Green Party has been unable to get on the ballot in Nevada for president in 2012, 2016, and 2020. And in 2016, Nevada was only one of 6 states in which the Greens were not on the ballot. Nevada had 4 presidential candidates on the ballot in 2020, whereas the average state had 6. And Utah and Nevada have virtually the same population, but Utah only requires 2,000 signatures for a party petition. On Monday, my organization won a decision in the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals in the case Gravelin v. Benson, which struck down Michigan's 30,000 signature requirement as applied in combination with a July filing deadline. The court in that case relied primarily on the evidence demonstrating that the 30,000 signature requirement was more restrictive than necessary to protect Michigan's regulatory interests. I believe this bill, if it were passed, is likely to be held unconstitutional on similar grounds. Thank you very much.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 619. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hi, my name is Joe Culver, C-U-L-V-E-R, and I am a volunteer with the People's Party. And there's so much I have against this bill, but I only have 2 minutes. So I'm going to concentrate on, I believe, Section 2, which affects the People's Party. Number one, this is voter suppression. That is what this is. And I just went to Ballotpedia to look at a state that suppressed voters through voter ID. I just went to Texas, and their requirements for a third-party candidate for a third party is 1% from the last gubernatorial election. They only require their last governor election was in this article was in 2014. Was 49,729 people. So this is, and I am gender non-conforming, so I am a marginalized community. So what this does is further marginalize us who want and need representation that the two-party system isn't giving us. And the People's Party is ready to advocate. We just need to be able to do it. So thank you for letting me come on here.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 544. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin. Once again, caller with the last 3 digits. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. My name is Gennady Stolyarov II, first name Gennady, last name Stolyarov. I am the Chief Executive of the Nevada Transhumanist Party and Chairman of the United States Transhumanist Party, and I strongly urge you to oppose Senate Bill 292, which would deprive all minor political parties in Nevada of the opportunity to fairly compete at the ballot box or even viably attempt such competition. I note that I did submit a detailed 5-page letter to the committee. I don't see any exhibits for this bill on Nellis, but I hope the letter did reach the committee members and that it will be published later. Also, I note this is an overwhelmingly unpopular piece of legislation. The opinion poll function on the legislature website right now shows 68 opinions against and 0 in favor. I think this should be considered by the committee as well. The Transhumanist Party is resolutely opposed to Section 2 of the bill, which would double the number of required petition signatures. The 1% threshold would already be exorbitantly costly to parties with smaller non-existent budgets at a typical cost of $4 or more per petition signature for about 10,000 signatures. A 2% threshold would be essentially unattainable. Even more onerous is the requirement in Section 2 that the petition signatures must be apportioned equally among the petition districts, which is essentially impossible to fulfill. If a minor party gathers one more signature or perhaps 2 fewer signatures from one petition district than from another, does that make the apportionment of signatures unequal and thus disqualify the entire petition? Moreover, if a minor party represents constituents who are predominantly located in one part of the state, is this party to be permanently barred from ballot access just because the constituents are not evenly spread throughout the petition districts? And this is just one example of the many barriers this bill places for minor political parties. Keep in mind, James Madison in the Federalist number 10 noted that the advantage of a large representative republic is precisely in the greater security afforded by a greater variety of parties against the event of any one party being able to outnumber and oppress the rest. The American founders feared precisely the scenario of 2 dominant factions vying for power at the citizens' and the republic's expense, and they saw the greater variety of parties as an important safeguard against such an outcome.
Mr. Stolyarov, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're getting close to the 2 minutes. I need you to tie it all together.
Yes, thank you. So whatever your views on the issues, I urge you to preserve this safeguard of the greater variety of parties and reject Senate Bill 292. Thank you.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 859. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon. This is Janine Hansen, State Chairman of the Independent American Party. We oppose, JANINEHANSEN. We oppose SB 292, particularly the portion which imposes straight ticket voting. Straight ticket voting exists currently in only 6 states: Alabama, Indiana, Kentucky, Michigan, Oklahoma, and South Carolina. In 2020, Utah repealed their straight ticket voting. In speaking to our former national chairman, Frank Flickiger, he said that straight party voting harmed our party in Utah. Straight ticket voting has been found to be very confusing to voters. Straight ticket voting hurts nonpartisan races like judges or school board races, which are at the bottom of the ballot because voters think they are finished voting. The voters also fail to vote on ballot questions and proposed constitutional amendments. Straight ticket voting discourages voter engagement in trying to obtain good information about those running for office. Essentially, it encourages lazy voting. For 26 years, Nevada Families published a voter guide, of which I was the publisher and editor, that reported the answers of candidates for state offices, statewide legislature, county commission, school board, and sheriff to questions on critical issues. Voters greatly appreciated the information we provided. Informing voters improve the election process, and that results in elected officials who better represent the electorate and their concerns. Straight ticket voting creates a disincentive for voters to become informed about candidates. Although Section 2 of the bill imposing higher percentages for petitions and earlier deadlines for minor parties do not affect the Independent American Party because we have secured our ballot access, we oppose those portions of the bill as well. Why do we seek to make it more difficult for people joining together as voters to organize a political party? Is it fear of competition or suppression of voters with alternative ideas? I served as the National Ballot Access Coordinator for the National Constitution Party in 1996, 2004, and 8. It is very difficult for minor parties to gain ballot access. In fact, in some states, it's nearly impossible. Is that the object of this legislation, to maintain the monopoly of the two parties, the two major parties? In closing, we oppose straight ticket voting as antithetical to the goal of an informed electorate and ask you to oppose SB 292. I also placed my testimony and sent it into the committee. Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits, 872. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and maybe.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Sam Toll, Toll. With my grandson and daughter, I represent 7 generations of Gold Hill natives. I ran as a county commission candidate in Story County during the last election cycle, and I believe I garnered the largest percentage of any third-party candidate statewide. My colleague, Charlie in Douglas County, was close behind me. He got way more votes than I did, but I believe that this the purpose of this bill is to create more challenges for third-party candidates, and I believe that if it had been law when I was on the ballot, I would have gotten far fewer votes. I echo what Ms. Hansen and previous callers have said about the doubling of the requirement of numbers. The Libertarian Party would be disqualified, I believe, based upon the numbers. But I think it's important for folks to realize the makeup of Nevada's voting constituents. If you take a look at Barbara Savasky's website, you will see that if you combine all of the third-party candidates with the no-party preference candidate voters, you will find that the Republicans are in third place. The no-party preference and third-party voters make a second-place group of people, only lacking the Democrats by about 77,000 votes. And I think what this does is provides a disservice to those voters who recognize, as my daughter did when I asked her to register to vote for the Libertarian Party, that political parties stink. And that's actually not the word she used. But I think that what we really need to do is ask ourselves why. Why are we doing this? And I think that an answer of, I don't think it makes much sense other than to solidify the duopoly of the Democrats and the Republicans is the logical answer. I really appreciate your time today, and I encourage everyone on the committee to cancel this bill, vote no, and move forward for all voters in Nevada. Thank you.
If you have recently joined our call and would like to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 292, please press *9 now to raise your hand to get your place in the queue. I repeat, if you've recently joined our call and wish to testify in opposition of Senate Bill 292, please press *9 now to get your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 105, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Chairman and committee, my name is Lynn Chapman. I'm the State Vice President of Nevada Families for Freedom. That's LYNNCHAPMAN. The National Conference of State Legislatures in 2020 said the number of states offering straight ticket voting has been declining in popularity over time. Every year, several bills are introduced to eliminate it, and occasionally bills are introduced to establish straight ticket voting. The Utah has just abolished the straight ticket voting in 2020. Pennsylvania abolished in 2019. Michigan abolished in 2016. Then they put it back on, then they took it back off. They've been going back and forth. New Mexico abolished in 2001, but from 2002 to 2010, the Secretaries of State tried to administratively replace it on the ballot, and it's gone back and forth. But in 2018, the Secretary of State attempted to reinstate it, but a petition to prevent its use was approved by the state Supreme Court. Iowa abolished in 2017, Texas abolished in 2017, Indiana abolished in 2016, Rhode Island abolished in 2015, West Virginia abolished in 2015, North Carolina abolished in 2014, Wisconsin abolished in 2011, New Hampshire abolished in 2007, Missouri abolished in 2006, Illinois abolished in 1997, South Dakota abolished in 1996, and Georgia abolished in 1994. It doesn't sound like it's gaining in popularity. I went on the internet and I checked out a number of comments, pros and cons, read a lot of people's comments, and it was quite evident that there were more people that are opposed to this than not. But I did pick out one young man, Jeff Bray, B-R-A-Y, from Michigan, who said, quote, "You should be able to vote for whoever you want, regardless of the party." So it's just the point of being able to vote for who, you know.
Chapman, I'm sorry to interrupt, but if you could try to tie everything together, we're at that 2-minute mark.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. What he had to say basically is he almost didn't vote. He said, well, if I can't vote for who I want, then I'm not going to cast my vote. But he said, I think it turned a lot of people away. Maybe there are a lot of people that didn't vote because of that. So I think it's important to listen to the people. We oppose SB 292. Thank you.
If you have recently joined our call and wish to provide testimony in opposition on Senate Bill 292, please press *9 now to get your place in the queue. Chair, there appears to be no more testimony in opposition on Senate Bill 292.
Could we now go to neutral? Anyone who wishes to be heard in the neutral position?
If you wish to testify in the neutral position on Senate Bill 292, please press *9 now to get your place in the queue. I repeat, if you wish to provide testimony in the neutral position, please press *9 now to get your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 779, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello, this is Richard Winger, W-I-N-G-E-R. I came in on neutral because I don't want to oppose the whole bill, but I do want to say the Section 2 was a big mistake. In 1992, U.S. District Court Judge Edward Reed, a Carter appointee, struck down Nevada's June 10th petition deadline for new parties. And this bill puts the deadline right back in violation of that court order. In addition, Nevada was one of only 3 states where voters were not permitted to vote for Jill Stein for president in 2016. She got over 1% of the vote. She came in 4th. It was simply a violation of voting rights for Nevada to prevent people from voting for Jill Stein. And if you're a Democrat and you feel in your heart, and I understand it, that you don't want the Green Party on the ballot because you think it hurts the Democratic Party, then the right course of action is to pass ranked choice voting that completely solves the spoiler problem. Maine and Alaska have already done that. And I also want to say that Nevada is already too hard. It's already 13,000. This bill would kick it up to 27,000. Already, Nevada's the 12th hardest state by percentage. This would make it the 5th worst state. And I just hope that you don't defeat the bill. Please just delete Section 2. Thank you.
If you have recently joined the call and wish to provide testimony in the neutral position on Senate Bill 292, please press star 9 now to get your place in the queue. I repeat, if you've recently joined our call and wish to provide testimony in the neutral position on Senate Bill 292, please press star 9 now to get your place in the queue. Chair, there appears to be no more testimony in the neutral position on Senate Bill 292.
Thank you very much, broadcasting. And, I know that there was one caller in the opposition line who cited some recent case law and questioned constitutionality of the measure. And I did reach out to our legal division. And certainly I was told that the Legislative Counsel Bureau does not draft a bill for any legislator or any committee if they believe that there are constitutional infirmities. Now, that's what I was told as to that. Senator Lang, Mr. Schrager, any closing comments that you'd like to make? Thank you for the presentation today.
Bradley, did you want to say anything?
No, thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Just that there are, with the two amendments you spoke of at the start of the hearing and perhaps some of the questions, there's always room for improvement, and we will seek to do that.
And I'd like to just close by saying I appreciate all of the people that called in to give us their opinion and what they thought. I appreciate the questions from the committee. I think that there's misunderstanding about what straight ticket voting is. Straight ticket voting is not the fact that if you circle Democrat or bubble in Republican at the top of the ticket, that you can't make other informed choices. This allows you to make other informed choices down the ballot should you choose to do that. Should you choose not to vote for different parties, then you can circle at the top the party that you would choose to vote for. I urge your support of this, and I will look forward to working with others to make sure that this is the best bill that we can present. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Lang. Thank you, Mr. Schrager. We'll now close the hearing on Senate Bill 292. And the last item on our agenda this evening is public comment. Broadcasting, if there's anyone who wishes to speak under the public comment section, we're allotting 2 minutes per speaker.
If you wish to provide general public comment, please press star 9 now to get your place in the queue. I repeat, if you wish to provide general public comment, please press star 9 now to get your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 544, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes and may begin.
Yes, thank you. This is Gennady Stolyaroff II, again, first name G-E-N-N-A-D-Y, last name S-T-O-L-Y-A-R-O-V. This is a general matter I would like to call to the committee members' attention. In prior legislative sessions, it was possible, and it is still possible on the legislature website, to see the text of individual public comments in favor or against a particular legislation. However, for the 2021 session, it seems that the opinions by bill function only allows one to generate summary reports. So one can see the number of opinions in favor and the number of opinions against. I hope this is a technical glitch and that it can be fixed, which is why I'm calling it to your attention. If it's not a technical glitch, then it seems to be a diminution of transparency, and I would urge the legislature to reconsider the removal of that visibility of individual comments. Thank you.
Chair, there appears to be no more general public comment at this time.
Well, thanks to our Vice Chair. Thanks, Mr. Schrager. Thank you, members, for your careful attention to this legislation today. And we are adjourned.